Hi everybody, it's Alexinis and today I'm gonna review for you the Dunlop Fx 500 Tour. Let's go! So today I took out of Tennis Zone this Dunlop Fx 500 Tour to review for you guys because I've heard a lot of things about this racket. There's some people that are claiming that this racket is really underrated, and there's some people that are claiming that this racket is actually kind of hard to play with even though it's a powerful racket. So, who's right? Who's wrong? I don't know if it's a real question because maybe there's no answer to it, but we're gonna try to find out. So, I'm gonna start with the specs and then we're gonna go on the court and finally I'm gonna give my rating. So, this racket is a 98 square inch head size with a 16 by 19 string pattern and an on-string weight of 310 grams. Now, let's go on the court.
If you're looking to buy some tennis products online, then I have a great news for you. You can use the code ALEXTENNIS to have 10% off your next purchase on Tennis Zone. Thanks to them for making this video possible, and let's go back.
On the court with the Dunlop Fx 500 Tour, the first thing that I felt and I was kind of surprised was the small sweet spot. And I just felt it was due to the form of the racket, which is a longer racket but not that big in general, even though it's a 98 square inch head size, which is pretty standard. But I just felt like for a powerful racket, it was really control oriented. What I mean by that is that, yes, when you can hit the ball clean, then you feel that the racket is quite powerful, and that's a good thing because I mean the FX line is the power line from Dunlop, but on the other side you don't have a forgiving racket. So if you're expecting to be this racket to be really forgiving, then you're completely wrong. This racket is actually kind of super hard to play with, especially at the net. I didn't have any feeling with that racket, and yes, sometimes I was hitting the ball cleanly and I felt like the racket was really actually good, but I never got used to the feel. Even the second time that I hit with it, the third time that I hit with it, it was just so hard for me to just figure it out. I don't know if it's due to my level, which is probably too low to play with that racket, but normally I'm expecting from a high power racket that, you know, it's easy to use and all that stuff, but this one is actually not easy to use. So I think it separates itself from the competition because, yeah, it's powerful, but it's hard to play with. So it will appeal to, you know, a small niche of player that loves to grind from the baseline, but loves to have a powerful racket, but that probably don't like the bubble up pure drive feeling because it feels too easy for them. So it's a great mix between control and power, but again, you know, really hard to play with, especially at the serve. And no, you know, it's not my best thing in my game, the serve, but I didn't feel confident at all to hit my first serve. The only thing that I felt good with was the slice because I just felt like I could just put as much slice as I wanted, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So, I thought that this racket was actually kind of weird because, yes, it's a powerful racket. When you hit in the sweet spot, it's incredible, and you know, it reminds me of a Battle Up Pure Drive, but at the same time, it's so hard to hit in the sweet spot. And I know it may sound kind of weird to you because you're like, hey, it's a powerful racket, just heavier. How could it be so tough to hit in the sweet spot? Let me explain why. I don't know if you can see at the camera here, but the racket feels so long. So it's really long, but not that big over here. Okay, so first of all, there's this shape that creates a smaller sweet spot for me, and that makes it a bit harder. Then I asked myself if it was because of the string that is in there, so it's Dunlop explosive bite at 50 pounds, but it was actually not the case, you know. This racket has a small sweet spot, it's just tough to play with. And I would say that it's quite maneuverable for 310 gram racket, but it's just, again, the sweet spot is so hard, and so when you're hitting in the sweet spot, then it's great, but if you're not, then it's totally bad. The other thing is the RA, it's only 66, which I mean is not that stiff, but it feels a lot stiffer. It feels like a stiff babola, and I know that it's the kind of Dunlop feel, but personally I like the feel that they gave to the CX line compared to this one. I feel like it was a bit too stiff, and to be honest, it happened pretty rarely, but for this review I didn't have any feeling with that racket. Even though I was hyped to try it and I really wanted to make a review about it, it was kind of hard. So now let's go with the rating. So in terms of control, like I've said, it's a pretty control oriented racket if you're hitting outside of the sweet spot, but when you're hitting in the sweet spot it's quite powerful, so I'll have to go with 6.5 out of 10. So not that powerful, but not that control oriented at the same time. For me, the control comes from the small sweet spot. For the power, I have to give 6.52 because like I said, you know, it's a quite powerful racket. You know, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but that's pretty much what I've learned from this racket. For feel, for me it was disastrous. I don't like the feel of the Dunlop Fx 500 Tour, but again, I'm not really used to Dunlop's racket, so if you're a user of Dunlop's racket and you're really used to this racket, you won't feel lost at all. But it just, for me, like personally, I don't like that stiff feeling and you feel lost in the string bed and all that stuff, so it has to be a 3.5 out of 10. In terms of spin, it was quite good for that racket, so I'll have to go with 7.5 out of 10. I just felt like it was not above average, but like average and maybe a bit more, you know? So nothing incredible, but just pretty good in general. The last thing I would say is that everything that I said normally can be different for, let's say, serving. You know, so normally like it's different, but I felt the small sweet spot even though I was serving. So there you have my overall rating. Finally, I would recommend this racket to people that want to hit hard but want to have a racket that has some toughness to it. So it's a pretty unique racket because like it's powerful, but at the same time it's tough to play with, so it's really rewarding when you're hitting a great shot with this racket. So I would recommend this to grinder from the baseline that are pretty high level, that are really good in terms of footwork, and that loves to hit heavy ball to their opponent. Again, thanks to Tennis Zone for letting me borrow this racket. Without them it would not have been possible. Don't forget to like, to comment and to subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye.